Russian President Vladimir Putin has replaced Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu. It's the first shakeup of his national security team since the invasion of Ukraine. Shoigu's replacement is Andrei Belousov, an economist and former deputy prime minister. Shoigu, who oversaw Russia's invasion of Ukraine, will now run the National Security Council.
Sergei Shoigu's future seemed up in the air as Vladimir Putin was inaugurated for his latest term in office. But on Sunday, the Kremlin confirmed that Shoigu would be moved from his post. Shoigu is a longtime ally of President Putin. He was appointed to the position of defense minister in 2012, and he has close personal ties to Putin. He's very publicly taken the president on multiple hunting trips to his homeland in southern Siberia. But recently, Shoigu has become deeply unpopular in Russia. He's seen by many as being largely responsible for the early failures of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and rumors were rife that his removal was coming. On Sunday, Putin appointed Shoigu head of Russia's Security Council to replace Nikolai Patrushev. It's been seen as a demotion for Shoigu, and it's unclear what Patrushev's new role will be. Both men were key figures in Russia's war in Ukraine, and their reshuffle took some Western military observers by surprise.
Clearly, Putin has recently been re-inaugurated for his latest term in the presidency, and you would have expected at that point maybe some changes in the leadership. But not these two, and not together.
Shoigu's successor as defense minister is Andrei Belousov, a former prime minister and economist. Belousov is a civilian with little military experience. The Kremlin says Belousov got the job because Putin wants the ministry to be open to innovation.
It is important to incorporate the economy of the security bloc into the country's economy, to incorporate it in a way that matches the dynamics of the current moment. It's also important to mention that today, those who are more open to innovation and implement innovation the quickest win on the battlefield.
With Belousov's nomination, Putin is most likely looking to bring military funding in step with the Russian economy, similar to the Soviet Union of the 1980s.
Well, for more on this, I'm joined now by our correspondent, Roman Goncharenko. Roman, why is Putin replacing his defense minister at this point in the war?
Well, it's not really a surprise because about a year ago there was this mutiny of the Prigozhin Wagner group that we don't hear anymore in the news, but which was very influential a year ago or 2 years ago when the Russian war, big invasion started, that mercenary group. So Prigozhin attacked the defense minister and the head of the general staff very harshly, he humiliated them both, actually. So observers were expecting a resignation of Shoigu last year, but he's a very close ally of Vladimir Putin. That's why he kept him for a year. Now he's replacing him. The reason is obvious. The war is not going just as Putin planned it. It's the third year. The Russian economy is stable, but it's a very heavy burden for the Russian economy. And economy is key to continue this war of attrition that is going on. That is why the new defense minister is an expert in economy.
Tell us, Roman, about Shoigu's successor, Andrei Belousov. What does he bring to the job?
Well, it's an interesting figure because he kept a very low profile despite of being in high positions. He was deputy prime minister. He was minister of economy a few years ago. He has economic background. Economy is his major, so to say. He comes from a academic family, Russian Soviet elite in the 80s, 70s. But I think the major reason for appointing him is his expertise in economy. And this is something that which is actually similar to what Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky did a year ago, who also exchanged the defense minister, and the current Ukrainian defense minister has also economic background. So both countries are preparing for a war of attrition.
Now, this is the first cabinet reshuffle since Putin renewed his mandate as president. Are more changes expected, Roman?
Well, there are a few changes, the most interesting being probably the removal of Mr. Patrushev from the head of being head of the Russian National Security Council. The former defense minister Shoigu will take his place. Mr. Patrushev was also a very close ally of Vladimir Putin. He was head of the FSB, the Russian Secret Service, but he was making some very strange remarks lately. Some people said he was, someone questioning, for example, COVID-19. Some say he was questioning if Americans were on the moon in the 70s, things like that. And it's maybe he's become a burden for Vladimir Putin. Mm-hmm. There is an exchange there, and it is an important change.
Roman, thank you very much. That was our correspondent, Roman Goncharenko in Bonn. Well, I also spoke to our correspondent, Nick Connolly, in Kyiv about this. I asked him what effect the change of Russia's defense minister is likely to have on the war in Ukraine.
I think, seen from Kiev, any kind of change, any lack of consistency, any kind of internal power struggles in Moscow are very welcome. It doesn't seem, though, that apart from the defense ministry, we're going to see a very different Russian government. Most of the ministers have kept their positions. As we heard there in the report, Belousov is a technocrat, someone who has, shown that he can help the Russian state organize its kind of military-industrial complex. And Shoigu himself was not seen as someone who was particularly good at strategy, who was perhaps more concerned with his own PR than with actually improving things for the soldiers on the ground. So I think it's fairly neutral seen from Kiev, but certainly any kind of sign of internal rivalries. We've had Shoigu's deputy in prison on corruption charges, now about facing trial. So anything that kind of suggests those kind of Moscow power battles that could distract from fighting this war here is certainly very welcome.